I'll first give a little backstory to my living situation. I was about 10, possibly 11, when my mom found a job working as a live-in manager to a quaint little motel at the end of my town. She took the job, and we packed up and left my childhood home. When we first moved in, it was a disaster. Holes everywhere, and certain parts of the house smelled horrible. We later learned this was because the old manager, Steve, was a druggie, and his wife was making and dealing meth out of there. A couple months into living there, we had sort of fixed the place up and made it more livable. At this point, my mom was working full-time at the desk. We had mostly stayed towards the back of the house because of the odd setup. The way the front desk where you check in is laid out was basically in our living room. It was a tiny cramped room with just the desk on one side and a door on the other, which led to our living room. A lot, and I mean a lot of people decided to just open that door whenever they pleased, and often got a view of whatever video game my brother and I were playing. This as a kid already freaked me out, and because of the motel's past, many meth heads came by looking for Steve, and would just walk right in when they didn't believe my mom when she said they didn't work or live there any longer. One time, during summer break, back a year or two after we moved in, I decided to stay up all night and play video games. I made a little nest in the living room and I made myself comfy. It was around 1 in the morning after hours of Skyrim when I started to hear weird noises. Usually if my mom knew a regular would be late, she would leave a key in an envelope for them, which looking back doesn't seem smart at all. I heard talking and it sounded like two men speaking a different language. I figured that's what they were doing and would leave in a second, but they never did. Continued talking for like 10 minutes before I started to hear them pull on the door. At first it was gentle, as if they were just testing it. As they continued, it seemed to get more frantic and I could almost hear grunting. Soon it was full on banging on the door. I was confident that my parents would hear it, but the room was all the way in the back of the house, which was about 3 hallways down. So after a minute, I figured I might be screwed and that I was probably going to die. I was a super paranoid kid. The banging stopped, and after a few seconds, I started to hear tapping at the window behind the desk in the house. I saw very clearly a head from behind the curtain. The windows were high up, and he looked to be stretching up to get it. He started to yank on the window, trying to break it open. While he was doing this, I saw movement at the screen door in the kitchen. At this point, I was absolutely shitting myself. I mean, I was petrified. I'm guessing the guy who was at the desk door had now circled around to the screen door, while his buddy was prying at the window. He jiggled the doorknob back and forth, after a second of resuming what he was doing earlier, and now banging on that door full force. For some reason, through my fear, I decided to try and be a ninja. To up my sneak level, of course, and army crawled into a little office part connected to the desk. There was a key drop-off where people could just shove their keys into when they checked out. That was basically just a hole in the wall. I popped up, all while they were still banging on the door, and grabbed a pencil to lift up the flap. I don't know what I expected to see. They were clearly at the side of the house, but I just had a horrible feeling, like I was being surrounded. Well, it turns out I was right, because when I lifted it, I saw 2 more men standing at the door, hands in their pockets. I immediately closed it and I almost cried. During this, I failed to notice the hallway light turn on and my parents emerged, looking very distraught. As soon as my dad turned on the kitchen light and shouted, "What the hell?" all the noise stopped and the guys took off running. I could hear one of them shouting something, and then nothing, just complete silence. After I told my parents about what happened the best I could through hysterics, they called the police. They showed up about an hour later and took the report. It didn't seem like this happened to anyone else in the town, but the police seemed to think it was some random workers and maybe didn't understand that we were closed. I don't know, it seems like they were just kind of race blaming, but I never really got an explanation of that night. All I know is that they didn't seem friendly, and I don't know what they would have done if they got in.